Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Hilary Miller. Dr. Miller attended Texas Christian University, the University of Texas at Austin, and Vanderbilt University before coming to Middle Tennessee State University. She is a longtime and valuable member of the University Honors College faculty. Before her current role, she worked in the College of Liberal Arts for many years as the manager of recruitment and resources, and she was recently appointed the director of the MTSU Veterans and Military Family Center. And you'll be hearing more and more about this center in the weeks and months to come. Dr. Miller spends considerable time focusing on veteran students and their move from military to college. She's been involved in the development of state policy for veteran education and served as an advisor to the governor's Veteran Education Task Force. Dr. Miller is a member of MTSU's Memorial Committee and the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. She's also past recipient of the MTSU Foundation Public Service Award for her work in retrofitting and upgrading the safety specifications of the Marine Standard Issue combat helmet. And if that's not impressive enough, Dr. Miller is a ruck marcher. She and her husband, Lieutenant Colonel Joel Miller, and an MTSU Blue Raider Battalion ruck team competed in the Mountain Man Full Marathon. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Miller, who will speak to us today about how to get involved and contribute to the needs of veterans.
Good afternoon, and thank you to those who have served, those who are serving, and our military families. Thank you for your sacrifice. We appreciate you. As Dr. Phillips said, my name is Dr. Hilary Miller, and I am the director of MTSU's Veteran and Military Family Center. Dr. Phillips and I started planning this event September 2013. So it's been 2 years that we started laying out this lecture series. So to say that it's a long time coming is true, but we're super excited about it. We think that it's going to be significant. We put a lot of thought, a lot of intentionality into it, and we are so pleased that you're going to be participating in it. Already somebody asked if they could take notes on laptop. That's perfectly fine. If I do anything, if I fall, I just ask, don't put it on YouTube. Just kind of keep that YouTube back there. My goal today is to talk to you about the relationship between the university, higher education, and veterans and the military. Kind of give you a little bit of awareness of that history and that relationship, bring you up to speed on it. My hope is that I'm going to be providing you the context and the backdrop for the lecture, for the rest of the lectures that are to come. I very much want this to be an open discussion. I want you to ask questions as we're going along. I want your input. So in order to do that, I want you to pull out a piece of paper, and I'm going to give you a moment to get your thoughts together on this topic. I'm going to give you 2 questions. I'm not picking these up. These are not part of the papers that we talked about last week. You can have fragments, bullets. I just want you to collect your thoughts on 2 questions. The first one is, who is a veteran? Who's a student veteran? I want your description of that. And second, I want you to talk about the relationship. What do you think the relationship should be between the university and the veteran? What level of care, if any, what duty does the university owe to the veteran student? So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to collect your thought. So a while back, I was walking on campus with my husband, and he was in ACUs, the Army Combat Uniform, fatigues, camo. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen ROTC walking on campus. And a colleague of mine said, to me later. She said, I saw you walking with that veteran. And I said, you saw me walking with a veteran? Now, I walk with veterans all the time, but how did you know this person was a veteran? I was a bit intrigued because I thought if there was some way that we could identify veterans, I was very eager to know what it was. And she said, well, he was in that uniform. And I thought, well, he's not a veteran, But it was something that we struggle with all the time. Those in the military are used to wearing uniforms that tell everybody what branch they're in. Even their camo is different. You can look at it, and I could tell what the rank is. You can look and see the ranks on there. You can look and see what branch, what the job is often, maybe what they've been involved in, what wars they've been in, if they've received commendation. So we struggle with that. When you're out of uniform, you're not able to tell each other apart if you're a veteran, and those on the outside can't tell either. So it's a little difficult. Everybody's experiences are so different in the military, and now there's no way to really kind of to look at you without talking to you and know those things. So I'm hoping that you can shed some light on and tell me, who are these veterans? What is your belief? When you see someone, you learn someone's a veteran, how do you identify with them? So tell me what your thoughts are. What did you put down for that first question? Who are our veterans? How do you identify them? Nathan, is that right? Can you tell me your thoughts?
Who our veterans are?
Yeah, who are they? So when you see someone, would you necessarily know? Now, sometimes you can tell. They might have digital, or they might have a hat, might have a tattoo that looks, but how do you generally know if someone's a veteran?
Oh, we'll recognize them.
Yeah, or tell me something about them. Like, what would you think if you saw a veteran?
People who are resourceful.
That's a great one. Yeah, absolutely. So resourceful. My brother's a Marine, and he's always saying, we do more with less. We do more with less. So he would definitely say he is resourceful. Jay?
I think stewardship is a good determining factor of whether or not they've been better.
That's one of my very favorite ones, and I'm going to come back to that one. I'm going to kind of close with that one. Yes, what else? Tell me your name.
My name's Michaela.
Michaela.
Well, first of all, you don't know that they're veterans until you talk to them.
Right.
But usually they're dedicated and disciplined.
Right.
They might have some issues just relating in the school environment, but they are still very driven.
Sometimes they might, because they've been out of school for a bit. So and they may be older too. That might be something that you sometimes can tell. Thank you, Michaela. What else? Yes, tell me your name.
Trey.
Trey?
Sometimes their general demeanor.
Yeah, you definitely can. My husband will say, I got a discount. How did they even know I was in the military? I'm like, your military showing. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes he can tell. Right. What else? Anything? Sometimes we get these conversations where people say, well, they're broken, or they have anger issues, or PTS, or they're homeless. I talked to a woman the other day, and she said, what do we do for our homeless veterans? And I thought, what do we do for any homeless student? We want to get them squared away regardless of their veteran status. And so sometimes those are true too. Anything else that y'all think of when you think of a veteran? One of the things I've been noticing, because like Michaela said, they can be older, they're coming back to school, they may have been out for a while, but we were interested in what their GPA is compared to the non-veteran population. And my colleague over here, Dr. Johnston, and I have been noticing that we need to break it down. We can't just look at all veterans versus non-veterans, because their GPAs may struggle that first year when they're back, but then it kind of bumps up. So it's more important, if we're trying to contribute to the need and see how we can help, is if we break it down and see, maybe look at them first year, second year, third year. So we're having to kind of dig deeper as well. But I like Cadet West's point of stewardship. And this is what I always tell folks when they say, what is a veteran? We have so many experiences. These guys, ladies, they can range from many different wars, many different conflicts. They could be in different branches. Gosh, I can't even tell you how many jobs are in the Army. Isn't it like 300 different jobs? It's crazy. So, and then their own experience, what they saw, were they stateside, were they time of peace, were they in war? Their own, what they brought to it could be different. So I just think that maybe we should focus on the fact that it's stewardship, that for some reason now that we're an all-volunteer Army, and even before, these were people who have served our country. And that maybe a unifying thing is that these people have given themselves to service. And maybe that's the unifying thing. That's how I kind of have been looking at it. But I was kind of interested. I thought maybe there was some way we could tell right off if they were a veteran. We're going to be learning a little bit more through this semester about our veterans. We are fortunate enough to have General Huber here at MTSU. Have y'all met him before? We'll give a nod to my boss here, General Huber, who's also a member of ODK. DOK is my church group. ODK. And he's going to be talking a little bit more specifically about our veterans here on campus. So we are fortunate that he's here. Aside from his cadet years at West Point, 38 years in the military, 14 years as a general officer. Now he's here serving the veterans of Tennessee and Middle Tennessee. Okay, so that's our first question. Who are our veterans? And now I want to talk about this relationship to the university and how we can get involved. I have to admit that when most of us think about the university and going off to college, our initial thought is not that of veterans and the military. We think of classes, backpacks, maybe even fraternities, sororities, but not generally the military. Yet this group has certainly shaped higher education. It has definitely shaped Middle Tennessee. When we started off, what kind of college were we when we began? Does anybody know? A teacher's college. Our name was even Middle Tennessee Normal College. And we started off with, let me give you a handout. I think this is kind of neat to take a look at. Pass those back. We started in 1911. We opened our doors, or maybe just the door. There in 1911, we had 120 men and 127 women, which I thought that was actually more men than I had thought. And it was, our numbers are all over the place during this time. And, we had wars, we had economic booms, we had crashes during this time. There may have even been higher educational policy that was affecting those enrollments. But boy, they were all over. And certainly men were much more volatile. If you look at their numbers, as they got pulled off to war in World War I and then again in World War II. We hit, I believe, in 1923, the low for both men and women. Someone who has better eyes than me. No, 1923, excuse me, was our high. 431 men and 662 women. And then it goes all the way down. Take a look at 1943. We're down to 28 men. And in 1944, the last year of World War II, we have 20 men. 1944, we signed the first GI Bill. Didn't go into effect till 45, but that was the year. And by the way, I just love the name of the first GI Bill. Do you know the name of it? Can you tell me? The Servicemen Readjustment Act. I love that. I love that idea that the government thought that the universities was a place for our military to come and transition, to readjust back into the civilian world. So look at that. So 45, that's the year the GI Bill goes into effect. We have 43 men. The next year we have 513 men. That's an all-time high for that point of men. Women, so this was all GI Bill related, because look at how many women grew at that time. 55, I believe? So this was definitely, the GI Bill was shaping our enrollment here. And it wasn't just the demographics. I mean, it was also it was affecting our curriculum and also our physical changes of the university. In the 1940s, the college served for what is called a college training detachment. Specifically, we were the 11th college training detachment. And what we did is that our faculty provided training for reservists, both in the Marines, the Navy, and the Army. And so they were here on campus. Any of y'all get a chance to take a look at this book? You can get them in the Gore Center. I know there's a few history majors here. This was put together by the history department, and they have some great pictures in here. And one of our professors, Lisa Pruitt, she was one of the editors on this, and they note that one of the things that we were teaching, that we had contracted with the federal government, was to teach engineering, drawing, mechanics, and accounting. So these were not our normal teacher education courses. So I would put out to you that the curriculum was changing as well. Additionally, we taught flight training on campus. So now, if you go over to BAS, you can go into any of y'all aerospace majors. We have a beautiful simulator. We had no simulator in 1940. We had a runway right here on campus. The old student center, that was the runway. So have any of y'all seen what looks like a hangar attached to Forest Hall? It doesn't look like a hangar. That was a hangar. It was built in 1940. Planes were landing right there on campus. I find that amazing. So certainly that's not part of teacher preparation. So I would say that we were changing our curriculum as well. Could you imagine if you were here on campus, you started in 1942 and you graduated in 46? Look at what those numbers look like, how different things were. I mean, certainly the world was changing, and MTSU was absolutely changed in that as well. Other physical changes, we had Rutledge Hall and Lyons Hall. As honor students, did any of y'all live in Lyons? Any of y'all live in Lyons? Imagine this. This is the history of your hall. What happened was that the women were tripled up into Rutledge to make room for that 11th detachment to come on campus, and they lived in Lyons. So 70 years ago, where y'all lived, that's where all the military folks were living on campus. And I have a friend of mine, she told me the story. She used to work in development here on campus. And so development, they're visiting with folks and they're getting donations for the campus. And so these are people who love the university. They're making their wills out to the university. And this woman was sharing her experience when she was a student here in the 40s. And she was thrilled. She didn't care that she was triple bunked. There were guys on campus. I mean, they had gone from 28 guys, and now there was 500. You know, these men were on campus, so it was great. So she was thrilled. But she said, and I love this part of the story, and I'm going to mess it up, and I don't really know how to find out, because, you know, this woman passed the story down. But she said that in typical Army fashion, they took this part of the alphabet and they assigned them to MTSU. So she said, we had all these men, and they all had the same last name, you know, because they were just alphabetized and sent over here. But she loved it, and she was glad to make a donation to MTSU all these years later, so go Army. Okay, so after the war, these things continued. We continued to make changes to the landscape. And there was a program called the Surplus Property Act of 1944, in which the government gave us some of the equipment that had been used for the military. And we built what was called Vet Village. And guys, I want to pass these out. We weren't sure about the technology, so I got yearbooks. But more importantly, I wanted you to kind of be able to feel and be able to flip through the yearbooks and see kind of contextually what was happening during that time, not just see some pictures and look at those separately. I've marked them so that you can take a look, and they have all sorts of veteran stuff going on. Here we go. I'm going to pass a few back. But take a look at this book specifically, the one highlighted. It shows the university. The first picture has the layout of the campus, and you can see how much of it was devoted to that village. You can also see the runway in here, which I think is kind of neat. Here you go, I'll start this off here. So Vet Village is basically right in front of Forest Hall, and I guess really right where Todd Hall is now. And it was a very dynamic community, had a grocery store. They had a Mr. and Mrs. Vet Village. You can see it here. And I was looking through this a number of years ago. Please, if y'all, even if you're not a history major, the Gore Center has some neat things there. And I was going through these pictures, and I see Mr. and Mrs. Vet Village, and I take a look at it. It has a little gentleman riding on a bicycle, a little toddler. And I realized I knew him. It was Mike Nunley, who is the coroner of Rutherford County over the whole paramedic program. He teaches scuba diving here. So I said to him, Mike, you know, I saw your picture. He was like, oh, goodness. But my point is, when you start flipping through these names, the people that lived in Vet Village, they stayed here in Rutherford County. You'll look at those names and you'll recognize them. These are the pillars of our community. And that's another, as Cadet West was saying, the stewardship. They get entrenched. They become a part of the community. So it wasn't just Vet Village. They went out to Rutherford County and became very much a part of that. Yes?
That village would include those little house trailers.
That's what it was. It was the barracks, basically.
That's where my parents resided
There we go. All right.
while Dad was in school here.
And how old were you?
I was not born until 53, so I wasn't around, but while Dad was class of 1950 for MTSC, Mississippi State College, they resided in those house trailers in that village.
Thank you, Colonel. I appreciate that. I would love to go back and see some of those rosters. That would be another project. If there's any researchers out there looking for a honors thesis, this might be something to take a look at. They had a very dynamic vet club, and it's interesting to look at kind of some of their concerns that were going on. And the yearbook says that they were one of the most active on campus. They were active enough that they were able to nominate a woman for homecoming court, for what was called the Midlander Court. So they were very much a part of this community. ROTC came in the 1950s, actually 53. I think Forest Hall was built in 54, and I do feel that I need to make a point that the Army did not name it Forest Hall. That's not an Army thing. They have had a very strong program. I believe commissioned 16 officers just last year. That's one over mission. And they continued this strong program even after it was no longer mandatory. I think that in 1978 is when MTSU no longer required ROTC as part of the males, part of their degree requirements. I hope that what you're starting to see is that we have had a long history here at MTSU. This is not something new because of our recent war. This is something that goes back quite a ways with our faculty, with our students. If you take a look, you'll see some of the things the students have done with our administration. Even someone, the director of the Veterans Center, I've been doing this work for 10 years, and I am surprised. I walk on campus all the time, and I see things, and I have passed by and didn't realize what its purpose was, what its original meaning was, that it was something that supported our veterans or honored our current serving or our military. For instance, how many of y'all have gone by and seen our new Veterans Memorial? That was built within the last decade. Have y'all seen it? Any students seen it? Okay, wonderful. I would encourage you to stop by. It's right in front of Jackson Hall. It's where we do our current commissionings. It's where we hold our veterans orientation, our stole ceremony. And a little bit about the history. We had two students who had died early on in the Iraq War, Pierre Pichet and Ken Ballard, both Army officers. We have an airborne and an armor officer, and they were both killed in Iraq early. And some of the faculty wanted to remember them. And they thought, well, what do we have on campus already? Well, Alumni Gym, did y'all know, that actually the whole thing is Alumni Memorial Gym. That is a memorial to our World War II veterans. And when you go inside, there's a brass plaque that has everybody's name, but maybe it's bronze. It's bronze. So it's kind of hard to add new names to it. And additionally, that was for World War II. If you go over into Forest Hall, they have some there, but it's for our ROTC members. So there wasn't anything that brought everybody together. It wasn't current, wasn't a living memorial. So we wanted to get together and start something that gave a nod to the past, included some of the past traditions and all those folks, but that was something that was very current. If you go out there now to the memorial, you'll see all of the names on the wall. They're all randomized. Everybody's together. It's not in order. We very often find our Vietnam vets now. They weren't reported in at the time. That wasn't a war where there was a great relationship between campuses and the military. So people didn't report back to their campus. So I find out regularly about Vietnam vets, and we didn't want them to be out of order, so it's all very random. The only two that we keep together are Francis Cornwell and Edgar Rogers. If you take a look at the memorial, you'll see their names are always together, whether in the bricks or on the wall. And those two were students here. As the memorial says, they were students here, they're students first, who served their country with honor. They were students, they went off together, and they died together in a plane crash together. So one was a navigator, one was an engineer. So we keep their names together. But we also tried to capture some of the things that we've done in the past at Alumni Gym. Is anybody familiar with the service flag program? The Blue Star families or Gold Star families? It came out of World War I, really became more popular in World War II. But if you had a family member that was serving overseas, was in a conflict, and now as if you're active duty, you could have a blue star. And if you had 2 stars, you had 2 family members, 3 stars. So in Alumni Gym, what they did is they put all 800 of our currently serving during World War II. They were our family, and they hung a banner in there with all 800 of them. And unfortunately, some of them turned into gold stars. Those were people that had passed. And so we moved them over to a separate banner. So if you look at the memorial, to kind of capture and include some of our past history, there's a star on the back for each of those folk, the 68 that have passed in service on there. So take a look. There's lots of things on our campus that have happened or go on that are part of those past traditions, and we're certainly still including them. So I would venture to say that's our past, a little bit of our present. There have been times of greater support and lesser times of attention, and that's just kind of goes with what's happening in the military at the time. This, for the last decade, has been one of those periods of a lot of attention to veteran students. Some of this is just a natural demand. Looking at the numbers, we have a lot of students who are coming back to campus. Right now, as the war on terror is kind of winding down and we're having reductions in force, just at Fort Campbell alone, we're separating around 400 to 600 soldiers just at Fort Campbell every month. And those folks are coming, they're leaving, they're needing to have some sort of maybe new training or to certify the skills that they got in the military. So maybe in the military they worked with computers. Now they want to have a degree that says I have, a computer information system. So they can come back, they have benefits. Additionally, with this 9/11 GI Bill, the new version of the Servicemen Readjustment Act, benefits are eligible to be transferred to spouses and children. So we have a lot of people that are interested in coming to the university who have benefits who may never have come to school before. So there's an uptick. Let me give you kind of an example. As of this morning, I checked just this morning, our enrollment was 22,956 students. That's grad and undergrad. 776 are veterans, 197 are dependents, so 973. In 2008, the year before the GI Bill, we had 429 veterans. I don't know how many dependents. We weren't really tracking it since the other bill did not allow for veteran, for them to transfer it. So we're almost doubled in our number of veterans that we're serving. But look at your enrollment sheet. This isn't a matter of, well, everybody went up. Overall enrollment went down by almost 1,000 students. And we've doubled what we're looking at as far as veterans. We put this in another way of kind of looking at it. It is estimated that less than 1% of our nation is served, of the citizens have served in the military. But here at MTSU, as of this morning, we have about 4.4%. And so I find that significant. As far as GI Bill, these folks are bringing last year about $4.7 million in GI Bill. So it's a big population. I think that's big. And they have benefits that they're bringing. And that's just tuition. That doesn't include the $16 million that they brought in basic housing allowance. Do we owe something? Is there a level that we owe? Do we owe because of their numbers? Do we owe because of the money? What do we owe? Certainly we felt that the government, when they set up the Servicemen Readjustment Act, that was the first financial aid. And if you go back and look at some of the histories of higher education, they say this was not a way of starting financial aid. This was a way of repaying for service or a way of providing a place to stop out so that everybody didn't hit the market at one time. So they felt that we owed something. What do y'all think that our responsibility is? Nathan?
I think a huge responsibility is just to get to know them, get to know their stories, and preserve the memories of their struggles and their sacrifices as honestly as we can.
Spoken like a historian, maybe an archivist in there too. I love that. To get to know them, that's something that we could do individually. That doesn't take a committee or doesn't take, the university to say we're going to set up a department. Individually, we can get to know them. And I love that you want to hear their stories and that you want to preserve them. We have a great oral history program in the Gore Center where you can come in, capture their stories, and that's added to the Library of Congress. So we have that here on campus. Gosh, I feel like I'm working for the Gore Center today. This is Okay, so what else can we do? What is our responsibility? Yes?
I think the university owes them I guess the easiest education they can. Make sure they don't have to fight through advising. They are able to schedule their classes without having major conflicts. Just make sure that it's not a hassle to get an education.
I love that. Tell me your name.
Kenneth?
And so my colleague over here, Dr. Johnston, he felt the same way. So he went to the legislature and he made it so that all veterans register early. So they register at the same time that honor students, because that GI Bill has a limited time. So in addition to thinking it's the right thing, they need to get through. They've already put in time and service, and now they need to get through, but they also need to get through and get the right classes, because if they get the wrong classes, one, it's not going to pay, and then they're also going to run out of time. So I love that. Jake, did you have? Yeah.
I think especially military veterans have certain challenges as students that other students really don't have based upon their military experience. And so with that,
Give me an example.
I mean, whether it's study skills,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, you enlist right out of high school, you spend 20 years in the service, and you come back to school, you've lost those study
Right.
skills. A book study skills that a student would have coming straight out of
Right.
high school.
Like you might have forgotten the Pythagorean theorem. Like
Right,
maybe
right.
you did
It's
someone.
it's simple stuff that us students, we really don't think about because we've learned it so much throughout our grade school, whereas, they've lost those special set of skills. And so I think it's important to provide them with services that can help them adapt to a student environment and not penalize them for their military
Right.
experience.
Absolutely. So some of the research that was done through a TRIO program at Austin Peay showed that while they might have started off more slowly, remember I was saying that the GPA it was lower at the first semester and then jumped up? They were showing that if they put a little bit of time into it, a little bit of what you'd call boot camp, and provides a little bit of training at the front end, that it had great rewards. So maybe specialized tutoring and maybe specialized advising. Absolutely. Michaela, did I get that right? Okay.
Just going off that same thought, being connected as a university to things like the VA and being able to communicate with them about students and their students' needs, because that's a real thing. There are things like PTSD and like social issues that they have to adjust to, and just getting them the help that they need.
Right.
And just being connected as a community.
Agreed. So if you might not feel like you want to go to have lunch off campus because you're not going to find a parking spot, how would you feel about going across town to go to the VA, in between classes? You only have a limited time that your children are in daycare, and now you're going to have to run in between that time. It's great that we got a VA here in Murfreesboro, but you're not going to be able to get parking. So one of the things, and I don't want to talk too much because General Huber is going to tell you some more things about our students, but that's an issue. That's a thing, as you said. And so maybe we need a VA here on campus, so that they can get that connection but not have to leave. Good. What else? Yes, tell me your name. I remember you. You're the drum major, correct? Didn't you, in high school, you were in band?
I'm in band.
There we. I thought you were the drum major. I remember your Scholars Day presentation last year. So.
As far as like the GI bills and stuff like that, the school needs to be willing to accommodate the federal aid programs that we have. It's hard enough to get scholarships and financial aid as a regular student, but also using government aid through things like the GI Bill, just being ready to work with that and not make them jump through hoops every time they need to add or drop a class.
Some of that, though, tell me your name one more time. Lee. Is difficult because it's federally mandated. I mean, it has to go through the government to make any type of changes. So maybe if we still have to play the game with the rules that are provided for us, so that we're doing it correctly. But maybe we're making sure that there's good communication about it and that we're backing it up to they have plenty of time so that classes aren't going to be dropped and that everything is understood. So if we got to play this game, and this is the game we're playing, that everybody understands the rules. So we've been very, very fortunate here to have a great certifying official. It's the person who links MTSU with the VA and makes sure those benefits are here. It's a hassle, for sure. One of the things that we're kind of interested in, there's what's called a Helping Heroes grant from the state, And we would like to see that being automatically included into financial aid. So when you apply for financial aid, if there's any type of state grant that's automatically included, why does our veteran have to fill out a separate application that they might not even know about? If they're a veteran and they meet the qualifications, award it. You know, why, I mean, that's something we could control. What else we got? Come on. Have y'all had classes with veterans? Yeah?
Actually, I was gonna say,
Tell me your name again, and I know
Colin.
aerospace, Colin, right?
yes, I'm in the maintenance and aerospace.
Okay.
And I know
Oh, yeah, you've got a bunch in
we
yours.
have a lot of veterans in that. And one thing that we run into a lot is they're so familiar with military manuals, making that tradition to the civilian manual when working on an aircraft, or even just how they do it. There's a little bit of, not a learning curve, but they have to relearn what they're doing. So we have developed our own, not manual, but way of standardizing everything. So that way, if you've never seen it before, you can do it. Or if you've worked on choppers for the last 10 years and decided to come back to school to get your airframe and
Love
power
that.
plant license.
So Colin, is it kind of like you're, like a foreign language, like you're translating it, like from here's military speak to this, and from this to this new language? I mean, is that kind of what your manual?
Because the FAA is a government regulated
Mm-hmm.
thing, they're pretty much the same, but there is times when you'll say something and they'll look at you like you're speaking Greek.
Okay.
And so there's a little bit of a issue there, but for the most part, they know what they're doing, and they make the best students in our program.
I kind of feel like there's a need for an app on this. Like you could be able to speak into it and say, what is this in military? And it comes out, you know, FAA speak. So again, another project for y'all. So I would venture to say that there's veterans in your classes. Again, we're talking 4.4% that you don't know about. Because there are those folks that are going to want to blend in. You know, that's behind me. I've done that. I've served. I don't really want to keep rehashing this. And so they're in your classes as well. What about this whole idea of dependents? What do you think they might bring? What do you think their needs might be? What do we owe them? You know, they may have had an experience where they've bounced around quite a bit. So maybe they have different needs. Maybe they might be the very best college students because they're used to packing up, they're used to going somewhere else. They're great at connecting with their friends because they have friends all over the world. So these might be some of our great ones, but they might have some other things that we need to help them with. Connecting them to maybe somebody else, and other, what we used to call brats are now military connected youth, so just so you know. Yes.
Is
Tell me
that-
your name.
Benny.
Benny. Oh, I like that. Benny.
Thank you. Is there like a support network for veteran families here on campus?
So we're really working on this. We have this new center, and when we asked what the university's obligation was, I need to say that MTSU is really, they're taking this very seriously. As I've just given, you know, we've had this long discussion about what they've done in the past, so why wouldn't we be having this? And I really like the approach that we've had. Over the years, for about a decade, many of us faculty members have been kind of doing this on our own. We got enough kind of a critical mass going that the president said he wanted to hire a 3-star infantry general. I mean, like, this is the real deal. So he came in, and then the first thing he did was he said, I'm tasking you to go out and find what do we have, talk to our veterans, do a survey, find out what their needs are. We're not just going to throw money at this problem, but we want to hear from them what their needs are. So we've been spending the last semester. And the research that he has done, the stuff that Dr. Johnson and I have seen, has always been that the service person wants to make sure that their family member is taken care of. And that is such I mean, of course they do. If they're going to take care of our family, then they definitely want to make sure their family's squared away. You know, so that's that's very common sense. Like, we really probably didn't need a survey for that. So, but that is what we're seeing over and over again. And so it was important for us that our name be something that included military families, that was so important. And so that's what we're focusing on, that military families, the things that we do for our veterans, we want to offer to our military families as well. And I'm seeing that in the literature as well, so much more people wanting to make sure that we're supporting them, that we're not just having tutoring, but there might be specialized tutoring for spouses, or there might be specialized club for this or that. So it's something that we're definitely looking as we're standing up our center, for sure. That's good. These have a lot of, yes, tell me your name.
Alden.
Halden?
Alden.
Alden,
Yes,
like
ma'am.
it.
Is there on-campus, like psychological rehab for those who need it, or do you usually refer them to a professional off-campus facility?
We got a lot kind of going on in that area. So we have counseling here at MTSU that all of us, any student can use, right? You know about that. But it's like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 counselors for, what did I say, almost 23,000 students. They are not equipped, they do not espouse that they're doing any type of long-term care. They're going to get you short-term. If there's an emergency, they're going to get you to emergency. They're going to take care of that immediate kind of problem. They have had training with military issues. We've included them in things that we do, but it's not nearly enough. So one of the things that we're working on is having a VA counselor on campus full-time so that they can look at all sorts of issues, you know, whether it be whatever their needs are, whether it be group counseling, individual counseling, family counseling, you know, so that's something that's a thing, and it's going to be happening pretty quickly. So exciting. We're building a new student center. I mean, whoa, let me take that back. A new veteran center in the old student center. Boy, a new veteran center, 2,600 square feet. It's in the old student center. And it's going to be pretty amazing and pretty comprehensive. And one of the things that's so neat about it, and I don't want to give all this stuff away, is that we're going to be together. And I'm going to leave it at that. But we're going to have some pretty comprehensive services. And we'll be talking about those a little bit through the semester. But back to Nathan's point. So, you know, this idea that we as individuals have agency and that we can make a difference in our classes and that we can make sure that we're reaching out and that we're talking to our veterans. If we're in organizations, that we can look around and make sure that there is veteran representation. Our new SGA president is trying to make sure that there's spots for veteran representation as well. When you have a veteran on a group, you're not only having a veteran, but you're having somebody that's a non-traditional student, an older student, and so you're kind of bringing in a lot of different perspectives. So we're kind of closing in on time. Any other thoughts? This is the kind of the image that I like to leave people with, and let me kind of close with this then, and that is, if you look at Normal Way, do you know where that is across? You know where that road is by Midget? It's over by the football stadium, Normal Way. And then if you were to look at Military Way, which is over between ROTC and the old student center, kind of would be going across the runway. If you were to extend both of those roads, they would cross, they would intersect. And I think that's the story of MTSU, is that we started off as this small teachers college, the military came in, and that shaped our university and turned it into the institution that it is. It shaped both our numbers, our curriculum, our physical layout of this campus. And I don't know of any other group on campus that has done that. So I'll leave it at that. All right, guys.